12 gives us a great picture of how God will correct us at times to get us to that point of full surrender, because he knows when we get there, then he can use us in amazing ways. And I don't know if you in here right now are perhaps being corrected by God. Maybe it's a financial struggle. Perhaps it's a job loss. Perhaps there's several lists of things that you could be going through right now. Again, notice I said could be going through, that are indication that you have not fully surrendered and God has something better for you. It could be like Job, and it could just be the way the ball bounces at times. I'm not saying that it is that, but perhaps it is. And we need to be able to be open to God's Spirit to hear from that. Look at verse 5 of Hebrews 12, and I think we'll get a good understanding of sometimes why God corrects us. Verse 5, we're actually going to start in that second half of verse 5. It says this, "My son," and I kind of wrote in my Bible, or daughter, "don't despise the chastening of the Lord, nor be discouraged when you are rebuked by him. For whom the Lord loves, he chastens, and scourges every son whom he receives. If," and I circled if you endure chastening, God deals with you as with sons. For what son is there whom a father does not chasten?" Pause right there real quick, if you will. Notice that he says, "For whom the Lord loves, he chastens." When you are corrected by God, when he's allowing circumstances in your life, they are to get your attention because he loves you. And that's a clear correction that I really pray that you'll hear from God today. He is not ready just to, it's like at Showbiz Pizza, we used to play that game where you had a mallet in your hand, and you remember the chipmunks would come out of there, and you have to drill them. I think many people have this perception of God that He's that guy. He's just waiting. He's out of line. Listen, he's not there to whack you over the head, but he is there to correct us. It's like a personal trainer. You ever had a really good personal trainer that you go to, and you just hated going there? Because dude just would not take you being a slacker. He's like, dude, I had this strength coach, man. Like, you didn't have any time. You couldn't sit down. If you're about to hurl, he'd be like, "Sweet, hurl in the trash can and get back in here now." No, but you know why he was doing that? He loved me, man. He wanted to extract the most potential that he saw out of me. It wasn't because he hated me. He loved me. And it says also in verse 7, if you endure chastening. You have a choice at that time. Right now, you could be going through it, correction right now, and you could say, "Enough of God, I'm out of here." Or you can say, "Man, this is rough. But I know I have a loving God who wants the best for my life, and I'm going to hang in there." Verse 8, same passage. "But if you are without chastening, of which all have become partakers, then you're illegitimate and you're not sons." In other words, if you're really not seeking God at all, and you're not going to get challenged at all. Verse 9, "Furthermore, we have had human fathers who corrected us, and we paid them respect. Shall we not much more be in subjection to the Father's spirits and live? For they indeed, for a few days, chastened us as seemed best to them. But he," and underline this, "for our profit, that we may be partakers of his holiness." He wants the best. Look at that. For our profit. He wants us to partake in his holiness. God is holy. And if you are in repetitive known sin and think God just is cool with it, I got to tell you, he's not. He's not. He wants the best for you. He can't bless someone who takes the grace of God and uses it as a license to sin. He won't use you, but he wants to. Look at verse 11. "Now no chastening seems to be joyful for the present, but painful." Can I get an amen on that? "Nevertheless, afterward, it yields the peaceable fruit of righteousness to those who have been trained by it. There's a training process. Will you yield to his training process? Will you accept the challenge of God? Pastor Chuck Smith says in his commentary of this passage, let me read it for you real quick. He says this: "It is important for us to realize that although God chastens us or corrects us, it's because he loves us. The chastening of the Lord is never punitive, but is always corrective." God doesn't punish us, he corrects us. And there is quite a difference between punishment and correction. Then he goes on to say, when you feel yourself being spanked by the Lord, don't resist it or resent him. Take it as evidence that you are his child and that he loves you very much. I had to throw that in there. That was me, man. There was a period of my life, I gave my life to Christ in 1997. And there was some repetitive known sin in my life for a couple of years, man. And I was getting pretty beat up by the Lord, man, because he knew there was something better. And when I finally got sick of that and said, Lord, I really want you to take it away, and I begged him, he provided opportunities to get through what my repetitive known sin was. And I gotta tell you, man, after that point, there was like a whole new life opened up with God. This whole new life of opportunity, whole new thing that he was doing in my life that I gotta tell you, I want for all of us. Because here's the deal. If we have a church full of surrendered lives, whew, then we will see revolution. If we have a handful or a couple of full surrender and the rest of us, we're just kind of playing church, we're just going to go through the motions, y'all. And we will see no power released by God. I don't know about you, but I'm not in this just to have a job. I'm in this to see revolution. Whatever it is, give it to the Lord. I'm telling you, man, he's going to bless it. Now, let's turn back to Job. Let's consider a couple things that we can look at here that maybe personally that we have in our hearts or in our lives that he is correcting or he's working, he's bringing to the surface, showing us so we then can submit to that. Let's pick it up in verse 6 and consider some of these evils that Eliphaz is kind of accusing Job of. Again, not that Job was walking into this, but perhaps you and I are. Verse 6. Job 22. For you have taken pledges from your brother for no reason, and stripped the naked of their clothing. You have not given, I underline not given, the weary water to drink, and you have withheld bread from the hungry. But the mighty man possessed the land, and the honorable man dwelt in it. Verse 9, you have sent widows away empty, and the strength of the fatherless was crushed. Pause right there. Verse 6 says that they stripped the naked of their clothing. I want to ask you and myself this. Are we taking advantage of people? Maybe in business. Maybe at home. Maybe you're a high school student and you're taking advantage of someone sexually. Are you doing that? That is sin that God is wanting to correct you and take that out because he wants the best for you. Verse 7 says, this really jumped out on the screen to me. I underlined not given in verse 7, and then withheld also later on in verse 7. And I want to ask ourselves this question. Are you hoarding God's money that he has entrusted to you? Are you the Grinch of Christmas? You know? You see an opportunity out there, but no, man, I got bills to pay. One of my prayers early on for this church is that God would use us to be one of the most generous churches in this city and across the country. And it starts by little things. I'll give you an example. Again, I won't share this to puff myself up, but I just want to give you an example. On my way to Florida, you guys know when you're getting on a plane, and if you have a carry-on that it's probably not going to fit in the overhead. They got palms right there. They're ready to take it from you, put a little tag on it. They'll put it on the plane, and right when you jump off